Hey guys, welcome to OCD Real Talk with just me and Sam again. We did one on chronic guilt and shame right before Christmas, I think. So we thought we'd pop in again, just the two of us, to pick a topic and yeah, freely speak on it. We really wanted to highlight, and I think there hasn't been a video done on this separately either. So I think that it would be good to cover this. Like, we want to talk about like the benefits and the advantages of having a social life, right? Being a bit more like outgoing, spending time with family and friends and things like that. Because with Sam and me both, that was an important like factor, I think, across our recovery journey. But also, it's very easy, as Sam, you were just saying, it's very easy to also withdraw into your own self as well. So then you really have to push yourself to
Yes,
keep that
100%.
up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll let you start off with, um, and like what would you say is like for you was like the biggest benefit in a sense of socializing even when you were like just really badly suffering?
Yeah. So at my worst, as I've spoken about a lot, I was virtually housebound, right? I gave up socializing. I gave up seeing friends. I gave up seeing family, right? Because OCD would ramp up when I go and see friends. When I was suffering really bad with chronic guilt, so real event false memory OCD, it was just all the time in the background, if only they knew this, right? And that guilt felt too intense. That's how it felt at the time. And then the compulsion that I did was to avoid seeing people so I could just stay in my comfort zone at home. But when things started to change, when I started to get momentum in recovery and the cog started to turn, was when exercising, of course, is great, but the main one is socializing. When we talk about life structure, so going out seeing friends, going out making plans. Don't wait for someone to make a plan with you. Go and ask to meet someone. Go and see friends and family, right? Because look at it like this. Look what OCD is taking away from you currently. It is taking away precious time with friends and family for some
Yeah.
reason that, oh, if only they knew this, because you might be triggered. Right, so you're going to have to go towards that, and that was so beneficial for me. Like I said, to build momentum. It's not going to recover you. Like seeing friends, you're not going to be recovered from seeing friends,
Yeah.
but it sets the foundations. It lays the building blocks to start getting your life back. See what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, and it gives you like a quite a lot of wind in your sails for that matter.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think like a classic example I often give people on one-to-one calls is also like like stereotypically like in movies and in TV shows and whatnot, you see that someone has had a really hard breakup with someone, right? And then the next like month or two, they're basically just at home in their blanket in bed and feeling obviously really crap about whatever went down, right? And then friends and family come over and they're like, hey, let's like go out, let's go for a movie, get dressed, do that. Like, they push you and they're like, let's do. Why? And why does that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
Because if you just give up like the rest of your life and human interaction, then the only
Yeah.
thing that you will be thinking about constantly is exactly your fear. That's where the rumination will be high. That's why the anxiety will be high. When you are able to
Yeah.
resume life and you're able to get out of the your four-wall bedroom, you're also able to break out of your mental walls as well a little bit. And it just
Yeah.
helps with like shaking
Yeah.
things up slightly. And again, the point is not for you to thoroughly like fully enjoy things, but it's still a change of, because a lot of times when you're chronically suffering, when you're out with friends and family, you won't be per se enjoying it, but that's not a reason to give it up, because when you're suffering, a lot of
Yeah.
these things, like minus the enjoyment, they still provide a function, a practical function. And I think that
Yeah.
that's so important to remember that, because when you're then basing your decisions off of emotions and feelings, you're not doing yourself any favors. But what you do have to see is at times that like functionality trumps emotional joy a lot of the
Yeah.
time when you're suffering.
Yeah.
So it's still so important to
Yeah.
keep that, like keep up with, people around you, because it provides a
Yeah.
sense of community, it provides a sense of support, it provides a like change of environment, change of pace. All those things are so important when you're so badly suffering.
Yeah. And a lot of times when I was out, I just felt so bad. It felt like hell. Like times I ran off, went to the toilet, and just cried my eyes out. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I did that because it's understandable why I would just sit home and avoid that situation because that's not nice going out sitting and you spend the whole time in the toilet crying, right? But even in those times, I still had a laugh at times. I still enjoyed jokes. I still
Yeah, yeah,
made
yeah.
jokes. I still had a drink with them. I still had a laugh, right? So because we just focused solely on the negative, oh no, I got upset. Oh no, I felt anxious. I didn't want to go out. So it's seeing it as don't just base it on how you feel, right? Like what you were saying. It's not just I feel like crap. I'm not going to do it. You've got to think. I don't want to spend my life in OCD's prison. I don't want my life to be so limited and restricted that I'm not going to leave the house because
I
that's how it
went
will go.
Yeah, and so I also like went through so in my teens, like throughout school, I was like I have always been a social person. I love meeting people, I love going out, I love spending time with people. And school was like school is like kind of like your peak thriving time of socializing and like hanging out and doing all the sleepovers and whatnot. But then in my early 20s, when my like OCD suffering really ramped up and really peaked, I think 7 out of 10 times I was saying no to people. And I was saying, no, I don't
Yeah,
want to hang out. I can't hang out. I'm not in the mood. I'm not feeling up to it. I don't
yeah,
feel okay. I feel this, I feel that. And that also started to take a toll on my friendships because my friends at some point were like, like, why are you doing this? Like, I mean, they're like the most compassionate people and they're the most understanding people, but also it went to like in a certain extreme because then I would also skip out on
yeah.
important moments when they would at times want my presence, right? When they would want my support,
Mm,
or they would just want me to be part of like a celebration or something like
right.
that. So I had to then
And
show up for them as well.
yeah, because think like you got to think that because obviously we're recovered now, so we can view it rationally. But for somebody who hasn't got OCD, they'll be thinking you're pushing them away. They'll be
Yeah,
thinking like, "What's up with this person?"
100%. And that's
Because
how
that's
they
how it
felt.
comes across.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how it comes across. At the time, we can't see that because we're so caught up in our own mind. But if you're saying, "No, I can't meet, I can't meet, I can't meet," making up excuses, you are pushing these people away,
yeah.
right? So, but also another point, I want to go to the other side of how OCD can operate around socializing. For me, it at one point it became very compulsive. So I was overly socializing. Let me tell you why. Because I would confess the whole time I was out with friends. I
Oh,
would
okay.
vent.
Yeah, yeah,
I would complain. So I'd see it as a way of relief. I get all off my chest, and to a point where all we were talking about was OCD, especially with family, like with my
yeah.
partner, and people that researched a bit about OCD, they understood a bit about anxiety. So as soon as they realised that I had OCD, that was the conversation all the time I saw them, and that became a massive compulsion.
Yeah, and which is why I think like even for non-OCD sufferers, I think just moderation is always the best policy.
Yeah,
I think that's how I have personally, even outside of like OCD, I've lived my life. I've tried to live my life by that because like again, overly then because we do this is I think those people at times are lesser, but it is still very common for people to overly surround themselves with like, friends or loved ones all the time because being by themselves makes them feel
yeah,
really scared. Right, or
yeah,
because they know that being by themselves, they either their rumination will be high, anxiety will be high, or
yeah,
something like that. Right, so of course, so there's a balance over here, and I mean, God knows, I still love time by myself. I mean, I really enjoy just being by myself as well. But there is like a case to be made for but again, that also has to be done in a balance because it's very addictive to also be by yourself, right? And
yeah,
because once you get comfortable in your own company, then you technically don't like at times need anybody else, right? So it's very
yeah,
tempting to just keep on being by yourself. However, like I also, even at times when I'm feeling tired, if I've had a long day and I'm feeling tired, I still push myself to go out and meet friends because I mean, even if they're not, it's not about them going through something or needing my emotional support, but like that's what friends are. Like, you just show up for each other because it just kind of brightens the day a little bit at the end of a long
yeah,
day. That's just the function. So, So I still do that, and I still strike that balance of, yeah, I mean, I like time by myself, but also like if there's a plan that has been made and I don't have like any other like excuse or anything, I'll go.
Yeah, yeah. It's finding the balance, isn't it? Because I mean, I was on a one-to-one call a couple of days ago, and this person said to me, well, they confess, not confess, but talk about OCD to their parents all the time. And they said, is that helpful? And I said, no, because you're doing that for relief, right? It's finding the balance. It doesn't mean you can never ever talk about OCD again with them.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it, imagine that every time you see someone, it's just OCD, OCD, OCD. Can you imagine that what that's like for them? How tiring, how exhausting that is. We know what it's like working with
Yeah.
OCD. We have OCD, so we understand what it's like. So it's finding the balance, and it's the same with like you said, seeing friends. So yes, spending time on your own, so you're not totally dependent on other people, but also seeing other people, so you're not on your own all the time. Anyone who knows me, I'm from England. I'm from like a sporting culture, right? So in sport, socializing is a huge thing. I go to football with tens and twenties and thirties of people, hundreds of people, and that becomes a big thing. OCD at my worst, that was taken away from me. Right? I missed out on many, many games because you travel up and down the country as well. It's not just go to the same place every time. So it's all the traveling, that you know, they're having a laugh on the way there, the drinking, right? So if you're not careful, and if you're so focused on how you feel in that moment, you will avoid because you don't want that moment ruined. But I cannot highlight this enough. You're going to have to keep going to these things, right? Even when I was in a situation where people in a foot crowd, they're very irrational. People get right angry, for example, right?
Hmm.
Now that used to trigger me so much with themes like POCD, harm OCD, you know, the taboo related themes, right? But my advice to me now, looking back at 5 years ago, and my advice to you people watching is do not avoid the situations because all you're doing is fueling the OCD fire. You're saying that's scary. I cannot cope. I won't be able to cope. I can't
Yeah,
stand it.
for me,
Right?
like a similar thing was, by the way, just a quick thing was not going to restaurants or cafes that were really loud or had loud music there, or that were filled with people, because that was a massive fear of
Yeah.
everything for me. Because for me, that was like,
Yeah.
if I go to a place like that, by the time I come home, I'm going to be so drained and I'm going to be so overstimulated and I'm going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
My nerves, it will feel heavy on my nerves, and I just like avoid those places. So
Yeah.
just, I mean, environmental triggers are one of the biggest reasons that people do stop going out, which again
Yeah.
massively becomes avoidance, like you said.
Yeah. And when you look back now, like even whilst I was suffering, those are some of the best days of my life.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Even whilst suffering with chronic severe OCD, panicking all the time. I look back now and go, I'm so glad I went because of the
Yeah,
places you went to, the things that happened when you were out, the laughs and jokes that we still talk about today. Now, if you stop going to those things, think of that, right? That's gone. It's just you sat at home in your bubble, and you'll probably be triggered at home anyway,
yeah,
right? So when you're in that situation, you've got to just think, what's the point, right? Do I want, if I was to recover from OCD, would I be seeing friends? Well, yes, you would. So go out and see friends. Don't wait until you're recovered. Don't wait until you feel perfect to
yeah,
go and see friends, all right?
yeah.
Do it at rock bottom. If you're having a
Yeah.
setback, go and see friends.
No, 100%. Like, okay, so another question I want to throw your way, because this is the other thing I come across as well. Like, when I speak to people and I encourage them to start going out a little bit more, they say that they don't have friends because they either, fell out of touch or like stopped contacting their friends, or they stopped hanging out with them. And so and there are people who are in their late 20s or even in their 30s who say they don't have friends to hang out with, right? So, what would your advice be for them in that case?
It's putting yourself out there.
I'm putting
So
you on the spot.
because we get so used to yeah, so we get so used to not having friends. So it's
Yeah,
easy to cling on to I don't have any friends. Well, you can change that, right? You don't have to spend the whole life with no friends. It's like the same people who are single and they'll say, "Well, I'm single," but you can change that if you go out and make an effort. If you want to have friends, then you have to change your behaviours, right? Because you're probably sat at home,
yeah,
not really getting yourself out there and socialising. So maybe start making friends,
yeah.
whether that's online. I mean, I'm not a friendship expert, but if
And
you're
like,
avoiding it because of OCD, if you're
mm,
avoiding it because of OCD, because you probably are, most likely are, then get out there and start speaking to people, right? I know people that you don't just wake up one day and go, right, you're gonna be my friend, you're gonna be my friend.
Yeah.
Things just happen. And those moments have happened when I've been out there feeling uncomfortable and having that confidence to go and speak to someone, right? I
Yeah.
don't know these people, I'm going to speak to, and now some of them are my best friends,
Yeah.
right? You don't just stick to your school friends, for example, right?
Mm.
I speak to about one school friend, right? The friends I've got now have gone out my way, even while suffering, and spoke to them. And then you start
Yeah.
knowing their friends. You start getting
Yes.
friends of
Yeah.
friends and family friends.
Yeah.
So it's getting yourself out there. And let's say you just want one friend, right? And then you'll be surprised that you'd meet other
How much it
people,
opens up your world.
different
Yeah.
different hobbies as well. Hobbies is a huge one. If you've got a keen interest in, let's say, music, right, and you
Yeah.
find someone who loves the exact same band as you, go and see a band, and you go and see them perform live, and you can go and speak to someone about the band, and who knows, they might be your
Yeah.
friend.
No,
Things like
no.
that.
And I think like joint activities, like, so here's the thing. I mean, I completely acknowledge that making new friends, especially like I think in your 30s can become, if you are especially kind of like starting from scratch, it becomes a bit of an effort because everyone is like kind of set in their own
Yeah,
world, they're in their own routines and social circles by then, like a lot of the time and whatever. So I completely understand that point. Even at like at 29, I sometimes do find it hard to meet new people and then make friends with them. So granted, yes. However, at the same time, it's about forming connections and networks and like even like if you for example like even you for example, let's say you join like some art class that happens once every week or twice every week, right? If you started going regularly just for fun, that, hey, let's try something different that I have not done. Naturally, you're going to start hanging out with people, like a new set of people regularly every week. And then you start to familiarize over time, and you start to have conversations, you start to get to know them. Then one day someone will say, hey, let's all go out for coffee or something like that. Then you all go out for coffee. So, like, if you are like right now, you feel like you don't have friends and you're struggling to have friends, one of the key things that you can do for yourself is get involved with something like on a regular basis. That can be, again, taking some kind of classes. Even if you start, for example,
yeah,
doing volunteer work for like an organization that does work that you are passionate about, right? Regularly volunteering for
yeah,
work and again meeting that group of people, I'm not saying that you have to create like your best friends who like share all your life secrets with. Of course, that comes later on. Right now, what you need more is like a certain sense of community, a certain sense of support. What? Why are you laughing?
yeah.
Um,
Imagine that, you've met him once and you've told him all your secrets, you've told him all about your life.
yeah. I know that, I mean, that would be ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, it's just that sense of like human interaction, which is so
Yeah.
important because it does make you feel less alone. It does make you feel like you're able to get out of your constant cycle of anxiety, fear, and rumination.
Yeah,
And
and
yeah,
it's
go
also
ahead.
great. Sorry to butt in. It's
No,
also great if you're working on the fear of rejection, right?
yeah.
Being rejected by someone that you're trying to be friends with, that you're trying to be friendly with, and you're trying to like, what's that? What's
I
that
have
about?
no
Did you see that
idea.
thumbs up?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
What the
Where did
hell?
that come from?
I'd only look right if it came up on the ball there.
Yeah, was it like some automatic function? I don't know. Well,
What happened? Is it because I put my thumbs up?
I
That's
don't
strange.
know.
Very strange. I've gone off track now. I've lost my train of thought. Oh, fear of rejection. It really
Yeah.
helps with that. So when we talk about changing behaviors, it's not just writing down on paper, massive, of course, very beneficial. But if you really want to break down fear of rejection, you're gonna have to get yourself out there and potentially be rejected, right? Whether that's dating, whether that's friendships, okay? It's not going out to everyone and be, can you be my friend? Can you be my friend? That's not how it works. But it's going out and just having a conversation, especially around things that you enjoy. So for me, I enjoy football. And I recently went to a football match by myself and stood there by myself and I got chatting to the person next to me just because, I thought, why not? We can talk
Yeah.
about the game. And then we was talking all game, right? I'd never met this person before. So little things like that, same with music, same with art, same with any hobby, right? Get into that regular activity, go into the gym, any exercise, right? it's because I know what someone will say to me. They'll say, "Well, I can't be bothered to do that. I don't feel well enough to do that. I feel too triggered to do that." You need to get out there and do these things regardless. You're going to have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're giving the keys to your life straight into OCD's hands.
And sometimes I think people also find it very awkward to just walk up to someone and say, like, just start a conversation with a random
But
stranger. I think,
that's what I mean by that's fear of rejection, right? So
yeah.
it helps with that rejection fear.
Exactly, fear of being judged and fear of being seen as awkward and things like that, right? And I
Yeah,
understand that because I mean I've felt that as well. Like, why would you just out of like you don't want to seem as some kind of creep who just has walked up to you and is trying to make some conversation, that kind of thing, right? But it's still so. I mean,
yeah,
but I've still done that many times, and it feels really nice and liberating as well that I'm just trying to talk to someone or I'm just trying to, maybe help or support or ask them if they're okay or whatever it is, right?
yeah.
Just you're just reaching out. And if the other
But,
person doesn't like reciprocate that, that's also fine as well. Like they don't need to do that. I just
yeah,
made the effort from my side and that's all like that needs to be done.
yeah. And also, right, and because of like the suffering and all what we've been through the OCD journey, I find other people fascinating,
Yeah,
right?
same.
Because what someone could look like on the surface, they could just be a random person sat in a restaurant, right? Now, as you get talking to this guy, or this girl, and you start hearing about their life struggles, their life stories, their perspective on things, right? That fascinates me. So why wouldn't you want to get to know things like that?
Yeah.
But I understand from your point that you're saying, oh yeah, but what if he sees me as a creep? What if he sees me as a weirdo?
Yeah.
Right? But that all links to fear of rejection. I could not accept myself if he thought that. That's the belief there.
Yeah. And
Doing
like
things like that is going to
I,
help overcome those kind of fears.
yeah, I'll give another small example. So I was just on my like religious pilgrimage that I went with my family. So this one day my brother and I were at the mosque and we were praying and the guy who was right next to us who was praying, his kid was during that time really like, screaming and like he was really crying and he was, I don't know, he was feeling distressed about something, right? But obviously the guy couldn't like break out of his prayer to like do something for the kid in that moment. So for like 5 minutes, like the kid was just feeling pretty agitated. I think he was maybe like a 5 or 6 year old kid or something like that. Anyway, when the prayer ended, I so the bag that I was carrying, I always like to carry like sweets and chewing gums and things like that with me. Like that's just something that I like to have. Like sometimes when you're just walking like on the street and like you haven't had food or something, it's just nice to have a little like candy or
Yes,
something.
sorry to interrupt. If I can
Yeah.
just jump in there, you carry on after. But when we meet, Momin, can you have a packet of chewing gums on you, right? Because I'm always looking for chewing gums and I always run
Yeah, I definitely will. I definitely will because I always have them in my pocket somewhere.
Thank you.
But like,
Carry on.
yeah, so I mean, as soon as the prayer ended, like, because I was feeling bad for the kid that he was feeling so distressed and whatnot. So I just like opened my bag and I was like, I mean, I don't want like his dad, like the kid's dad to think that, I mean, why is this like stranger being odd or whatever? But I just took out like a few candies and I just, without even saying anything, I just gave it to the kid and then the dad was like, "Hey, say thank you," and like the kid said thank you and whatnot. So, I mean, and I again, you do think about these things twice because you're just, because some people are not like receptive to like a stranger just like trying to do a nice gesture or whatever. But I still did. I was like, like if it brightens up the kid's mood and it calms them down, so why not? And the kid did calm down. So like yeah, it just takes that kind of like stepping out of your comfort zone from your usual like because when you're going about like the world you're just kind of like in your own bubble kind of situation. So it takes like
Yeah,
an extra effort to step out of that, but
yeah,
oftentimes it works well.
definitely. Definitely. I think you're probably thinking, well, how do I do this? But let's let's give an example, right? Let's say you're catching a flight or any public transport, right? And this is something that I do now. I do a lot. And I did this when I really wanted to get over the fear of rejection. But I do this now because I love doing it. So I was flying to Thailand probably about a year ago now. And there was a German couple next to me. and we got talking. You know, you make the odd remark about the drink or about the food, right? And then an hour in, we're having a really deep philosophical conversation about things. We're having about their life, about their struggles. And this is what I mean by that fascinates me. If I just sat there and stayed in my own bubble and didn't even mention anything, I wouldn't have got that insight on things. But because I made the effort just to have that small comment, that small talk initially, but I thought I've got 8 hour flight, my partner was sleeping. I thought, let's try and talk to someone. And
Yeah.
then because of that, I then read all about German, like the geography, the locations in Germany, their holidays they've been on. And that's just an example. I do this
Yeah.
a lot. Any sort of on the train, for example, I do that, right? So I much rather speak to someone than just scroll down social media. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that, but that just becomes boring to me because there's no insight. I'd
Yeah.
rather speak to someone about their life. Because, and also on that again, you'll probably say, well, what if they say no, go away? But that doesn't bother me because I don't care about rejection.
Yeah.
But that's I've got to that stage, and that's obviously going to be difficult. But you can start making those small steps now.
Yeah. What I like doing is often like because I notice like small things and like someone will be, I don't know, let's say wearing a really nice print, or someone will have a really nice scarf that I would like, or maybe like they're wearing earrings that have a very cute, like fascinating kind of design. So I'm the kind that kind of person who really wants to say to the person that this is so nice, and like and no follow up with that. I just want to tell the person that this looks really nice, because and I know that it's something that can also put a smile on the other person's face as well, that because they make a certain effort, that and they don't think anybody would
Yeah,
notice or even say so. At times I've also like started off like a random social interaction with a compliment, right, as well. Not as a
yeah,
strategy, but that's just the first thing that comes to my mind, that I noticed something and I just want to tell the person that it looks really nice or whatever. And that's where it
yeah,
kind of it warms them up immediately, and they tell even like a story that, oh, this scarf is like
yeah,
something that my like grandmother made for me or something like
yeah.
that. And
And I
then
love
there's a
that.
cute
I love
story with
that.
that. Yeah, and I
I
enjoy
love
that
that.
so much.
And yeah, I really like that. But also, let's go worst case scenario because this is what OCD would latch to. What if they said to you, mom, and go away, you creep,
Yeah,
right? But because you don't have that fear of rejection, you're not then putting off saying nice earrings,
yeah,
nice dress, nice hat, right? Things like that. But because people are so scared of what that person thinks, they don't they refrain from doing things like that, don't they? Just I want to talk again about how you can really put yourself out there in these situations. Like I talk about a plane a lot because a plane, what else are you going to do on an 8 hour flight, right? I got chatting to this guy, he's from Canada, and this was in an internal flight in Thailand. And they just got chatting because I thought, why not? He was next to me. We're both sat there doing nothing. I thought, let's chat to this guy. And the next, give it like 20 minutes, and we're talking about like hiking. It's not Nick, by the way. We're talking about hiking, mountain trails. Like this guy was doing lots of running. And he, when he went and he told me a story where he was face to face with like a bear. And that was like fascinating me. But if I didn't have that first, hello, how are you? What are you doing in Thailand? Blah, blah, blah. That wouldn't have happened. So just put yourself out there. Don't worry. It's look at the beliefs you're holding around rejection. You're so scared of them, telling you to go away or telling piss off, right?
yeah.
From more extreme. But take that step, all right? It's not the end of the world if they reject you. And then you can have some amazing, extraordinary conversations with people. That's what you will find. And you won't have that if you refuse to say anything.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the point is not even to form any long-lasting like bond with them or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. I never saw that person again. Right? It's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's just it can even be like a 10-15 minute conversation, but what that helps with is again, break out of your own like ice castle essentially of like
yeah,
then
yeah,
not wanting to speak to people, and that's where you also start developing the at least the ability to socialize, right? Because again, like why part of the reason why people are not socializing is if I socialize, either I will be rejected, I will come off as awkward. Even with friends as well, a lot of people feel that that's why they start distancing themselves from friends. I'll have intrusive thoughts if I, interact with my friends a lot. Intrusive thoughts are going to bother me during that. So those are like some of the reasons. But when you start developing even just that, because it's a muscle, like, right?
Yeah,
Striking
exactly.
conversations, building conversations with other human beings is a bit of a skills. There are social skills. So
Yeah.
it takes time to lean in and flex those. But really doing that helps with then pave the way forward and at least opens up the possibility to make new friends, right? So when you do end up signing up for a random art class, you are going to have a better potential than to be able to make friends there.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know about you, Mum, but I'm always looking to talk to like strangers, right? Talk to people that I don't necessarily know, especially in a foreign country, because I'm fascinated by the culture. So, for
Yeah,
example,
same.
where I was on holiday last month, right? And there was this Dutch couple, right? And 5 years ago, I wouldn't ever speak to a Dutch couple because I think, oh, do they speak English? Blah blah blah. And I just asked them a question about the wine they were drinking, right? About the wine, and then 2 hours later, we're talking in-depth conversation about wine, about Netherlands, about England, about history, politics, all these different things, right?
Yeah,
Now, I'm not saying, oh, look at me, look, I can speak to anyone, but what I'm saying is that you can have such amazing conversations. I didn't do that to be their friend. I'm not like you. I want to be a friend.
yeah.
It's the more the what can I learn? What insight can I get from that? What wisdom can I get? What experience can I get? Right. And this is why I said on a real talk yesterday that like rational thinking and having these perspectives excites me because I wouldn't have ever done this when I was really irrational. I'd be stuck in my own, never doing anything by myself, never speaking to people, and just being like stuck. No, that's weird. I'm not going to ask that. That's strange. But
You
when you
know,
go out of that, when you break free from the fear barrier, that's when things start to change. Like
yeah.
this.
And like I think with strangers, I think just from an angle of fear of rejection, one thing that stops people from speaking to strangers, especially from like another country or culture, is not wanting to sound ignorant or stupid, I think,
Yeah,
because
that's
like
enough. That's a great point. That's a great point.
so like I might want to know something about the culture, but I don't want to
Yeah,
come off as like someone who
yeah.
is asking maybe like a what's that word I'm forgetting. Basically, I don't want them to think I'm stereotyping them in some way, or
Yeah.
or
I
that
get. I know
I'm
exactly what you mean. I
right.
know exactly what I mean because, for example, if I'm in a country that different religious beliefs than
Yeah,
where I'm from, asking a question about religion, but
yeah, that's a tricky one.
from what you're saying, because you don't know if is that a strange question? Is that obvious here? Am
Yeah,
I saying something offensive? So it's taking that risk that you might be rejected. You might say something stupid. You might come across as arrogant or
yeah,
ignorant,
yeah.
right?
And
But
like I've never
it's
come
all
across
part of the
someone.
learning.
Yeah, I've never come across a conversation with like a stranger where I've asked certain questions and they've been like, fuck off. Like
Yeah, yeah,
they the same with me, by the way. Like whenever like a stranger or someone from another culture, Nick, for example, was the other day, he was asking me questions about like my religion and my culture and how that operates and things like that, right? And so like for me, and there were some questions that like someone else might think that, oh, this is what people from another country or culture, this is what they think of us. But for me it was just a point of like, oh hey, like let me tell you and let me tell you how it
yeah,
is, kind of
yeah.
thing. And it just becomes like a learning curve for like everyone. So I find it personally very exciting even when people ask me questions about my culture or my country or something, and
Everyone ask Moment questions a
yeah,
million times a
pop
day.
those questions
He'll love
down in the
that.
comments. I'm going to answer all of them and tell you
Message
what
him
I like.
directly.
Yeah, DM me on my Instagram. But yeah, I mean, so I try to step out of my comfort zone to do that with other people as well, just to learn a little more about them. And again, I find people usually like almost all the time, like I found people to be very keen and eager to tell you about with like again their culture or
Yeah.
language or whatever it is.
It also comes hand in hand with the unconditional ever acceptance. And what I mean by that is when you're trying to view things from their perspective, that comes from asking questions. right? Because you're not going to understand someone's perspective without, trying to understand it.
Yeah.
You're so used to how you think, or the culture you're from, or society that you're in. You're so used to how they think. But let's say you're trying to understand someone from a million miles away. If I'm trying to understand, let's say, your culture moment, I can't just presume things. I'm going to ask you questions because
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. And same with me. You'd ask me questions about the English culture.
Yeah.
So without actually being curious, without wondering about things, you're not going to learn stuff. All right. It's like I was speaking to someone they were like fluent in 8 different languages. And I was like, wow, like how'd you do that? Right. And I say, like, what language do you think in? What language do you find the most difficult to learn? What did you find difficult about English? I'm trying to learn this language. Have you got any tips? Things like that. Right. It's not just like, oh wow, it's amazing. I'm asking questions about that. Right.
Yeah.
This is going a bit off topic from socializing, but this is all part of building confidence
Yeah.
and wanting to find out things, just being curious about it. You don't have to be, I'm only asking you to be my friend, but
Yeah.
just being curious. And who knows, they might become your friend. You might become a regular
Exactly.
contact with them.
Exactly. Yeah. So Sam, I also have to leave. I have to go actually see your friend. Not to be like, I'm not
What's
making that
what's a
up.
friend? What's a friend? We haven't mentioned that today.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is that important? Why do you have to go? Um, but yeah, so I have to go meet up with a friend. We're doing movie night. So
Enjoy,
yeah.
enjoy.
But yeah,
And
good.
what movie are you watching?
We're watching Coda, which I think also like won the Oscar. So it's about I think Coda is child of deaf. I'm forgetting what the A stands for, but basically it's like child of deaf person essentially, and it's like uh, deaf people who have hearing children. I think I don't want to be
Okay,
wrong about it, but something
okay,
about it. So that's why the movie is named that. And it's about this girl who has like deaf parents and things like that. So I'm very interested to watch that.
awesome. Enjoy. Lovely speaking to you.
Yeah, same here. And good topic. I think we haven't covered this before,
Yeah.
so I think this was a good one to.
If you are still watching, any suggestions for me and Momin, Nick and Momin, me and Nick, please leave suggestions because we're always welcome for them. Within
Absolutely.
reason, we can't be really specific about things, but if you want us to cover topics, and we're more than
Yeah,
happy to do that.
absolutely. All right, Sam. Have a good rest of the night and
Yeah,
evening,
and you,
whatever. See
you
you
take
then.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.